Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep into the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer.
The father of the atomic bomb.
Yeah, the enigmatic figure often called the father of the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
And our guide for this journey is the Pulitzer Prize-winning biography, American Prometheus.
By Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin.
Exactly. By Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin.
It's a book that goes beyond the typical science biography. It really unravels the complexities of a man who was not only a brilliant physicist, but also a deeply conflicted soul, grappling with the moral implications of his work amidst a turbulent historical landscape.
Yeah, that's what intrigued me about this book. I knew a little about Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, but American Prometheus just reveals so much more. It's less about equations and more about the human drama behind the science.
Yeah, and what makes it so captivating are the contradictions at the heart of Oppenheimer's story. He was drawn to both the elegance of theoretical physics and the rugged beauty of the New Mexico desert. He championed social justice, yet led the creation of the most destructive weapon the world had ever seen.
That's a powerful juxtaposition.
Yeah.
It's almost like his life was a microcosm of the 20th century,
Yeah.
full of incredible intellectual advancements, but also shadowed by the potential for catastrophic destruction.
To truly grasp those complexities, we need to start with his early life. Oppenheimer's upbringing in a wealthy, intellectual Jewish family in New York City played a significant role in shaping his worldview.
Okay.
He was instilled with the values of science and social justice from a young age, influenced by the ethical culture movement, which emphasized ethical behavior and independent thinking.
So these early influences planted the seeds of his later contradictions, the ones that would play out so dramatically on the world stage.
Precisely. But even in his youth, there were hints of a complex and sometimes troubled personality. At summer camp, while other boys were engaged in typical outdoor activities, Oppenheimer preferred solitary pursuits like collecting rocks and immersing himself in literature.
That image really paints a picture of his intellectual curiosity and his tendency towards introspection, even as a young boy. It's almost as if he was destined to walk a different path.
That pattern continued at Harvard. He excelled in theoretical physics, but struggled in the laboratory setting, finding the practical aspects of experimentation tedious. There's even an anecdote about him correcting a Nobel Prize-winning physicist on the age of a temple.
Really?
Based solely on its architectural style.
It sounds like a blend of intellectual brilliance and maybe a touch of arrogance.
Yeah.
Was that something that followed him throughout his life?
It did, and it often rubbed people the wrong way, but his genius was undeniable.
Yeah.
At a time when quantum mechanics was revolutionizing the field of physics, Oppenheimer was at the forefront, working alongside giants like Niels Bohr and making significant contributions to our understanding of the universe at its most fundamental level.
So here we have this brilliant, ambitious physicist pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge. But the book also delves into a darker side, doesn't it? His emotional struggles, his bouts of depression.
Yes, that's crucial to understanding the man behind the science. He wasn't simply a cold, calculating intellect. He was deeply sensitive, prone to intense emotional experiences, and often burdened by a sense of inadequacy despite his obvious brilliance. This vulnerability, this neurotic streak, as some called it, influenced his relationships and played a role in some of his later missteps.
And it's these missteps, particularly his political affiliations, that would come back to haunt him. The book delves into his involvement with leftist politics in the 1930s, a time when fascism was on the rise and labor movements were gaining momentum.
His involvement wasn't merely theoretical. He contributed significant sums to help Jewish physicists escape Nazi Germany and actively participated in various leftist organizations, including the Teachers Union. This, of course, attracted the attention of the FBI, and the seeds of suspicion were sown.
It's fascinating how those early political activities driven by his sense of social justice would later be used against him during a very different political climate.
It's a stark reminder of how personal beliefs and actions can be reinterpreted and weaponized in different contexts. And speaking of relationships, Oppenheimer's personal life was equally complex, marked by tumultuous love affairs and a passionate but often volatile marriage.
That's where his relationship with Jean Catlock, a Stanford-trained psychiatrist and Communist Party member, comes into play.
I'm so glad.
The book paints a picture of a deeply intense and ultimately tragic love affair.
Their connection was both intellectual and emotional. They shared a passion for literature, a commitment to social justice, and a certain rebellious spirit. But Tatlock struggled with her own mental health issues, and their relationship was marked by periods of separation and reconciliation ending in her tragic suicide.
It's clear that this relationship had a profound impact on Oppenheimer, both personally and politically. It seems like she played a role in solidifying his leftist leanings, and perhaps even influenced his later actions during the war.
The extent of her influence is still debated by historians. What we know for sure is that the relationship, along with his broader political activities, placed Oppenheimer firmly on the radar of the FBI, setting the stage for the scrutiny that would follow him for years to come.
And that scrutiny would only intensify with his involvement in the Manhattan Project, the top-secret effort to build the atomic bomb. It's almost like his life was leading inexorably towards this pivotal moment in history, a moment that would forever change the world and define his own legacy.
That's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore how Oppenheimer, the brilliant but conflicted physicist, navigated the complexities of Los Alamos, leading a team of brilliant minds in a race against time to create a weapon of unprecedented power.
Can't wait.
Picking up where we left off, Oppenheimer's arrival at Los Alamos marked a significant turning point in his life.
It did.
This isolated laboratory in the New Mexico desert became the crucible where his scientific brilliance, political past, and personal demons would converge.
It's hard to imagine the pressure he must have felt, leading this top-secret project, knowing that the fate of the world might hang in the balance.
The weight of that responsibility was immense.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the scientific challenge that he had to contend with Oppenheimer. The theoretical physicist who thrived in the world of abstract ideas suddenly found himself in charge of a massive undertaking.
Right.
Managing a team of brilliant but often eccentric scientists, engineers, and military personnel.
And amidst all of this, the shadow of his past, those leftist affiliations, and the lingering questions about his loyalty continued to loom over him.
The FBI's surveillance never really stopped. Every conversation, every interaction was scrutinized, adding to the already immense pressure of the project.
Wow.
But despite these challenges, Oppenheimer rose to the occasion.
He did.
He proved to be a charismatic leader, inspiring those around him with his intellect, his vision, and even his eccentricities.
The book paints a vivid picture of life at Los Alamos, a strange mix of scientific collaboration, military secrecy, and a kind of frontier spirit.
It was a unique environment. These brilliant minds, isolated from the outside world, were united by a common purpose, a sense of urgency, and perhaps even a touch of patriotic fervor. They worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge, racing against time to unlock the secrets of the atom.
And at the heart of it all was Oppenheimer, the enigmatic conductor of this scientific orchestra.
He was instrumental in fostering a culture of collaboration and open communication, believing that the success of the project depended on breaking down traditional barriers between disciplines. This often put him at odds with General Groves, the military head of the Manhattan Project, who favored compartmentalization and strict security protocols.
So Oppenheimer, the man who had once been suspected of being a communist sympathizer, was now pushing back against the military establishment in the name of scientific progress.
Exactly.
That's quite a twist.
It highlights the complexities of Oppenheimer's character. He was a man of contradictions, capable of both fierce independence and pragmatic compromise. He understood that building the bomb required not just scientific ingenuity, but also a degree of political savvy.
But even as he led the effort to build the bomb, the book reveals that Oppenheimer was already wrestling with the moral implications of his creation. He was deeply aware of the destructive potential of this weapon, a potential that was tragically confirmed with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
One particularly poignant scene in the book describes Oppenheimer's meeting with Niels Bohr,
Right.
his former mentor and a fellow physicist who had escaped Nazi-occupied Denmark.
Yeah.
Bohr expressed grave concerns about the consequences of unleashing atomic power, urging Oppenheimer to consider the need for international control of such a devastating weapon.
It's as if Bohr's words planted a seed of doubt in Oppenheimer's mind, a seed that would grow into a profound moral dilemma in the years to come.
The book also reveals that Oppenheimer, despite his initial reluctance, came to believe that building the bomb was necessary to end World War II, a belief shared by many at the time. It's a decision that continues to be debated today, raising complex questions about the ethics of war, the balance of power, and the unforeseen consequences of scientific discovery.
And it's in the aftermath of the war, in the shadow of the mushroom cloud, that Oppenheimer's story takes another dramatic turn. He goes from being hailed as a national hero, the brilliant scientist who helped win the war, to becoming a target of suspicion. His loyalty questioned his past, scrutinized under the harsh glare of Cold War paranoia.
That shift is a stark reminder of how quickly public opinion can turn, especially in times of political upheaval and fear. Oppenheimer, the man who had once been entrusted with the nation's most sensitive secrets, now found himself facing accusations of disloyalty. His past associations and political beliefs twisted and distorted to fit the narrative of a nation gripped by the Red Scare.
And it's this turn of events, this dramatic fall from grace, that leads us to one of the most gripping chapters in Oppenheimer's story, the security hearing that would ultimately determine his fate and leave an indelible mark on the relationship between science and government in America.
That's where we'll delve into the next part of our deep dive, exploring the events leading up to the hearing, the political machinations behind the scenes, and the devastating impact it had on Oppenheimer's life and legacy.
So the security hearing was a major turning point.
A major turning point. I mean, here was this brilliant physicist, the so-called father of the atomic bomb, being put on trial, essentially, for his past political beliefs and associations.
And the book really goes into detail about how this hearing was orchestrated by Lewis Strauss.
Yeah.
A man who held a personal grudge against Oppenheimer and saw an opportunity to discredit him.
Exactly. Strauss was incredibly powerful at the time as the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission. And he used that power to really manipulate the proceedings, ensuring that the board was stacked against Oppenheimer.
It's amazing how much damage one person's vendetta can inflict. The hearing itself was incredibly tense, with Oppenheimer subjected to days of just grueling interrogation.
Yeah, I mean, his every word and action were scrutinized.
Yeah.
His past associations with communists were magnified. Even his personal relationships were brought into question.
And one of the most damaging moments, I think, was when he was confronted with his conflicting accounts of the Chevalier incident.
The Chevalier incident. Yeah, this is where things get really murky. Oppenheimer had initially told security officials about a conversation with his friend Hakan Chevalier, a Berkeley professor, about a possible approach by the Soviets to get information from him.
Right.
But later during the hearing, Oppenheimer claimed that his original account was a fabrication,
Right.
a cock and bull story, as he called it.
Which is interesting because it seemed like he was trying to protect his friend.
Right, and this admission of lying, even though he claimed it was to protect his friend, was ultimately used against him.
Yeah.
It fueled this narrative that he was untrustworthy and potentially a security risk.
It's a tragic situation because it sounds like he really was trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
To protect someone he believed was innocent.
Right.
But in doing so, he kind of created this web of inconsistencies that ultimately trapped him.
Yeah, and it really highlights the impossible choices that people faced during that era, you know?
Right.
Caught between loyalty to their friends and the demands of this paranoid security apparatus.
It's no wonder that so many scientists and intellectuals felt betrayed by how Oppenheimer was treated.
Yeah, the impact of the hearing really extended far beyond Oppenheimer's personal fate. It cast a chilling effect over the entire scientific community, creating an atmosphere of fear and self-censorship.
It's a dark chapter in American history.
It is.
A time when fear and suspicion trumped reason and evidence.
But amidst the darkness, there were also voices of dissent.
Yeah.
People like John McCloy, the former Assistant Secretary of War who testified in Oppenheimer's defense, arguing that the nation needed its best minds, not a culture of fear.
And even on the board itself, there was a dissenting voice. Ward Evans, a respected scientist who argued that Oppenheimer posed no threat to national security.
Right. Unfortunately, those voices were drowned out by the tide of McCarthyism.
And ultimately, Oppenheimer was stripped of his security clearance, effectively ending his career in government and academia.
Right.
It's heartbreaking to think of this brilliant mind silenced and ostracized by the very establishment he had helped to create.
But even in his exile, Oppenheimer continued to think and write and speak about the implications of the atomic bomb and the dangers of the nuclear arms race.
His famous two scorpions in a bottle metaphor really captures the chilling reality of mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
This precarious balance of power that defined the Cold War.
A metaphor that remains relevant today as we grapple with the ongoing threat of nuclear proliferation and the potential for global catastrophe.
Oppenheimer's story is a cautionary tale, but it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, his enduring love of learning, and his unwavering commitment to truth.
It's a story that challenges us to think critically about the role of science in society, the responsibilities of those who wield great knowledge, and the importance of safeguarding intellectual freedom.
And for anyone who wants to delve deeper into this complex and fascinating life, I highly recommend picking up a copy of American Prometheus. You can find an affiliate link in the episode description.
It's a truly captivating read that will stay with you long after you finish the last page. It sheds light not just on Oppenheimer's life, but on a pivotal moment in history, a moment that continues to shape our world today.
Well, this has been a really fascinating conversation.
It has.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and legacy of J. Robert Oppenheimer.
It's been a pleasure exploring this incredible story with you.